Welcome to the Beyond Listening podcasts with your host, Miriam Jones, me, and Adam Rumack. The Beyond Listening podcast is brought to you by Open Circle, and on it you will find guests from diverse industries, cultures, and political perspectives. Today, we have a really special treat, not because I was sick and so could only listen to this podcast recording, but because we're bringing to you the musician and veteran, Andrew Wiscombe. We are really excited to be bringing Andrew and Kilcher, who you'll hear in our next podcast, as part of a fundraiser for veterans healing. Andrew brings a unique perspective as well as a few of his songs as we explore his journey of being in the military and his life afterwards and the way that music and wilderness impacted that. So enjoy the story of Andrew Wiscombe.
You fear what you're becoming. You fear what you became. You fear you sold what matters most for flashy clothes and well-known name. And you feel the sun upon you, that California dry. Heart and soul are thirsting for the rains from endless Kansas skies. Wearing constant frowns, chasing heavy crowns. Go and find yourself a freeway, find yourself again. Find yourself a diner, have a coffee, make a friend. Find yourself a mountaintop, throw caution to the wind. Find yourself a freeway. Make the time to take the time to follow wild and careless whims. Let the silent child inside you laugh aloud again. Find yourself a freeway. Find yourself again.
Man, I love all those songs, and that one, it felt like we worked our way up to that one. That it just it really hits home. One of the reasons we get to talk to you, Andrew, is because we're co-hosting with Heroes Healing Homestead and Operation Encore, an event with you and other artists and our mutual friend Kilcher down in Ojai. And this is our first chance to get to meet you and get to know each other a little bit better. And we figured, well, why not record that and see if it entices some other people to look you up and learn more about your story and through your music. Or maybe even join us in Ojai. So that's full transparency, just getting to know each other for the first time and exploring some stuff together.
Awesome. I appreciate you all taking the time and having me meet with you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how you got into music and how you found your way to your own artistry.
Yeah. Well, I grew up on a farm, ranching and all that, so there was always Hank Williams and Tennessee Ernie Ford and Willie Nelson and that Johnny Cash, those kinds of things, old country playing around, and come from a blue collar family. We classic rock all the time, those kinds of things. So kind of American roots music. Although I think sometimes British people nailed the American roots music better than actually Americans did. So
sometimes the Japanese do, actually.
You know what? It's weird.
And the Australians.
Yeah, totally. But so I always grew up kind of with that around, and my mom's family was pretty musical. like my great-grandma, her grandmother used to play piano in the silent theaters, and she couldn't read any music, so she would just watch the movie and make it up as she was playing, as
Wow.
she was watching it. And so we kind of had that, and then it was in my environment. But I started playing guitar when I was about 15, and ended up in punk rock bands and like hardcore music bands. So I played that and played in bands, around for a while, and then ended up graduating high school, and that, life hit me, so I kind of went down other routes and didn't do music as much. I ended up on a Mormon mission in Brazil. So I kind of would play a little bit, but lost touch on the kind of creative side, creating music and playing there. And then I got back from that, and pretty shortly after was in the military, and I didn't play a whole lot there either, just a little bit. Like, I had a guitar when I was deployed, whenever I was deployed, but it wasn't a whole lot that I played. And then after I got back, music became a way for me to kind of cope with some of the things I was feeling from the military and my experiences, around the world. It was a way to combat some of the difficulties that I didn't know were PTSD at the time, but that's essentially what it was. So I got into songwriting, I think more seriously. As a punk rocker, I wrote some, but it wasn't anything I'd be like own up to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I did. And then I started writing, and that was a big venting off steam for me. It's the steam valve a little bit to kind of work with some of that. And at first the songs were not good, and I think with time they became a little bit better, but I always tried to come from a place of authenticity and honesty, regardless of whether people around me would like it or not. Just kind of right where my heart was. So, and that's been, probably 10, 11 years ago that I probably started seriously doing it, actually pursuing it a little more. So,
What was your role in the military? In your service?
I started out as infantry, and then ended up being a sniper and on recon teams. So I ended up kind of in the world where a little bit more specialized than the infantry stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And at the tail end of my career, I ended up in special operations, on some missions on what they call an SMU, Special Missions Unit.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my Portuguese from my Mormon mission came back around, and that was needed for this specific team I was on, the SMU I was on. So that's kind of full circle there. My Mormonism, my Portuguese paid off there. So I ended up doing that for a little bit as well.
And you were in Iraq or after?
Yeah, I did Iraq. I did kind of a little bit in various parts of the Middle East. Iraq, I did a full year there. And then a little bit in Central America as well. Yeah, I was, I tell my story and people think, oh, Rambo, this and that. Man, I couldn't be anything further from that. I don't consider myself a badass like that, but, I did the job and what I was supposed to, but, I'm just a normal guy. Just happened to end up in that world, And
Yeah.
I was proficient, but by heavens, not even close to what some of the level the other people could be,
Yeah, and I mean, from the stories that I've heard, the hardest part was sort of shedding the idea that he was supposed to be a badass.
Yeah, that's
Anymore.
exactly it.
And
I think that's very true, and to work in those settings, you have got to lose a lot of ego, and which my dad did a good job of beating any ego out of me that I had. So no, but I don't like it when people say, "Oh, you're a hero" or something like that. Nah, I am not. I've worked with some heroes, but I definitely never was anything close to that. But I did my job and I could do it, and but I don't consider myself anything like that. So, yeah.
I was struck by just listening, getting to know you from another podcast that you've done. You talked about, as an artist, being open-hearted is a requirement to sort of let the feelings in and let the feelings out. Is kind of how I heard it.
Yeah.
And that environment was obviously, or maybe not obviously, but it was antithetical to who you are as an artist. And I'd love if you'd share a little bit about how you went into that, how you come out to that, and how that relates to your music and your own personal journey, of course.
Yeah, thank you. I think I always kind of had a soft heart growing up. I was a pretty sensitive kid, and I cared about everything and everyone around me. Even if they hurt me, I still cared, and I'm probably was born like that, but so when you join the military, you kind of have to, I think I had to learn to harden that a little bit, and you have to kind of have a rough exterior, otherwise it'll just eat you alive. The things that you can see or do that you never thought you would see or do. So I think I still maintained a sense of that, and I was always a little bit more sensitive probably than the people who are around me. I can't say that. That's not fair. I think it just appeared to me that I was... some things were harder for me to not necessarily deal with, but to think about and manage, and so I kind of had to put some of that aside a little bit, and then it's kind of like kicking a can down the road. At some point that can's got to come all the way back, and I think when I got out, that's what I was facing. But I mean, one of my call signs was Care Bear. So the other guys around me noticed. I think I was still very LDS Mormon when I was in, so I didn't swear or anything. I was pretty religious, so I always cared about the guys around me and the people around me, whether it was people from wherever I was at, the local nationals, or it was the guys on my team. I just deeply cared about people. And so coming back and having to kick that can all the way back down the road, it's very, very difficult to come to terms with what my heart felt about the world and the people around me, and what I had witnessed or what I had to do for my job. And then you start to kind of Monday morning quarterback a lot of those things, and you feel bad, and a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, and so when you're sensitive, I think that can make it even more difficult, I guess, because you think about it a lot. So I think, but that side of me, the being open and having a big heart, it works well as a songwriter. I think that in that environment, it's a really good place to open up and just let it all out, and I think, but not in a way that's overtly like in your face. I think I try to keep the adage as a songwriter: show me, don't tell me. I want to paint a picture that people can think and feel what they need to with that song, not what I think they should.
Sure.
But yeah, I think the heart, having a big heart like that is good in that environment. So in this world, I think we probably have to balance the two. Everybody's got both sides, maybe some more or less than others, but it's something that we have to come to terms with and figure out when to turn off and on the switch, so.
There are people who, they find that their open-heartedness through some way of a profession, but I kind of feel grief for the people that, whether they were in the military or any kind of service in their life, where they've learned just how to turn the off switch, and not how to turn the back on switch.
Sure.
You know?
And probably a lot of people that end up in those jobs in the military, specifically like combat arms stuff, is you come from an environment, a lot of I won't say you do. A lot of people, many that I knew, they came from an environment that has a very narrow idea of what a man is like, what a man should be, and oftentimes that's hard. It's the John Wayne, type rough and tumble. That's what a man is, and I think that is part of it. But I don't think that's fully fair, because I think it's okay to be sensitive too. It's that doesn't make you any less of a man, or any less valuable. It's just a different side.
Yeah.
We learn to shut off the emotions, but I don't think that's the best thing.
Is there a song that would answer the question about, the role that music played or the open-heartedness played in your life in the military? And
play a little example of something.
If you could show us a little bit of that.
All right. So so this song is one off my most recent record, and it was actually an Operation Encore. It was during COVID. They gave us a prompt, and they said, you need to write a song, and the only requirement is that the title is Alone with You. So they thought we were going to have cute songs about, I'm alone with my wife during COVID, and this is, and I just took it and made it the most gut-wrenching thing that I could. Sometimes we're our harshest critics, and being alone with yourself can be the toughest thing out there. So. Wish that you could sleep like when you were a kid. Carefree summer days on a lazy river's bed. But that childhood lives in pictures, and that water ain't so blue. And it's killing me to be alone with you. And you beat yourself for battles you have won and you have lost. And you beat yourself for coins you've never tossed. Sticks and stones break different bones than scales and mirrors do. And it's killing me to be alone with you. Wish that you could feel the love that others gave. When morning broke through curtains drawn, a midnight kiss remained. But you haven't failed a warm embrace since fair words rang true. And it's killing me to be alone with you. And you beat yourself for battles you have won and you have lost. And you beat yourself for coins you've never tossed. Sticks and stones break different bones than scales and mirrors do. And it's killing me to be alone with you. You can hate yourself for winter. You can hate yourself for fall. You can hate yourself for anything at all. You can say goodnight to family. You can say goodbye to friends. but you can't escape the one inside your skin. And you beat yourself for battles you have won and you have lost. And you beat yourself for coins you've never tossed. Sticks and stones break different bones than scales and mirrors do. And it's killing me to be alone with you. Yeah, it's killing me to be alone with you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
such a relatable song too. I mean, for everyone, right? That
Yeah, I think probably we're our harshest critics, and you know, and evolutionarily, I think there's probably a reason for that. It can keep us safe, you know, but also if it's too much, it can be crippling, you know, and so there's a balance of loving yourself, but also keeping yourself in check.
Mhm.
And I think we probably all know people on opposite sides of that spectrum, you know. But most of us probably fall somewhere in between. I've always been pretty hard on myself. But you know, like in that song, I try to, you know, when I say that you could sleep like when you were a kid, carefree summer days on a lazy river's bed, but that childhood lives in pictures and that water ain't so blue, and it's killing me to be alone with you. So the idea is, you know, everybody probably has a little bit of an experience where you have these joyful things when you were younger, and it's hard to look back. You know, that water ain't so blue. Sometimes we get so affected that we can't see the beauty around us or in ourselves, and so trying to find that again in any way that we can, you know, it's hard, but it's important.
How are you finding it now?
I think songwriting is one thing. Sometimes I see in my children's eyes how they see me, which is vastly different than how I see myself. But that's a beautiful thing. I think not only writing music, but when you get to perform it and connect with people. And you know, it may be that no one's listening, but there's one person, you can see it, and you know that your eyes meet, and it's like they don't have to say anything, but it's like a thank you. There's certain times that really happens, and that's a beautiful, beautiful moment. So that I can be a part of that in any way, any small way is one way to help that. You know, and I think getting out in nature, you know, unplugging a little bit from the world and just getting out. Well, I say unplugging from the world we've created that is chaos, you know, and technology and all this, which has its place in it. It can be really important, but, you know, just sitting under a tree by a river with your dog or whatever. Yeah. So, you know, but just things like that, I think. And that's why Heroes Healing Homestead for me was a huge thing. For me to be able to get back to that a little bit, a lot bit, you know, has been so helpful. I have on every one of my records, I have a dog barking in the back.
Right.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's awesome.
It's always good, but
They're great. I love dogs.
Where did your connection with nature begin or become an important part of your story?
Yeah, I think growing up ranching and farming in Utah, where I was, I should say born and I was born in Montana. My dad was military, but that wasn't very long, and then we ended up. My whole family's from Utah. You know, both of my family lines go all the way back to like bodyguards for Joseph Smith. You know, and then coming west. So nature was a big part. My dad used to guide hunts and things like that, and so we helped a little with that. And we always were just out fishing, hunting, working, whatever it was. We were outside all the time, and I just found a lot of joy sitting on a river's bed fishing, or riding our motorcycles out, in the fields, being up hunting, or in the mountains. Or I love the desert. As a kid, I always thought, oh, it's so ugly, but I just love the desert now. Let life go by. I have to be a part of it, or else I'm not going to last, And it's like working with, not against, working with nature. I think the desert is one of the best places to do that. There's something about it, and you see these canyons and it's just so open, nothing for miles, and I don't know. There's something about that I find peace with.
I like how I appreciate how in all of your examples of connection with nature, they're all participatory, right? It's not like the version of nature appreciation or whatever, where you drive up to the parking lot at the national park and take 2 steps out, take a picture, and get back in. And you were there and you saw it. It's farming and ranching and hunting and fishing and then even the desert. Just staying alive out there.
Totally. And
it's I different.
Oh yeah. I one thing I spent some time with various different Native American tribes and cultures growing up here, and doing the guiding and fishing and hunting and all that. And one thing I've always appreciated about them is we are not fighting against the earth. We're not, it's like everything we do in our culture, sometimes we fight against nature. Our cars, when you take gasoline, it's an explosion that gets us to move forward. It's, all of the things drilling into the earth to get what we need so that we can be talking like we are right now, to have the energy. And some of that has its place, but I learned from them, learning to work with Mother Nature and what she provides us, and we are compatible if we allow ourselves to be. And I have always appreciated that. Even if I'm in the middle of nowhere, Mother Nature can provide if I do my part, and I know, and I have the tools. I can work with her, and I find a lot of peace in that. And I think Western culture, we've gotten away from that a little bit. I think we take a little bit too much, and we're not giving back, or working with and living with Mother Nature. And I hope for my children, at least, that I can hopefully teach them to work with that, and not so much against, and not just take, but also give. It's important.
Yeah. Right.
There is a violent side of nature, and you have to learn to adjust and adapt to that. And it may come down to you have to protect yourself. There are a lot of things. But yeah, it's not all kumbaya all the time, and it never has been.
No.
But also, it's not all Rambo all the time either. There is time to be kumbaya with your surroundings, and knowing when to do that.
And that's a lot like our conversation about the open heart, soft heart, closed heart, that relationship, that it's not simple, right? It's not like we're going to be one or the other all the time. It's complex, and it's
it absolutely is.
Relationships in there.
I think also, it's I talk about this with nature, but even with people. I mean, there are some people that I learned the hard way. I should not have been as open with this person. They took advantage of me, and it affected me and my family or whatever else. So, you had to draw a boundary after that, and it's kind of figuring out with each relationship we have, how much of this how hard do I have to be? How, and I don't like, and it's not, it's out of making sure, it's out of survival, in a way. And that's really hard to know. And I don't think we ever fully will. Hopefully we have the tools to adjust accordingly as we can, and as we're able. And I think the hardest part for me is being gracious to myself while I'm learning.
Yeah.
And to be patient with myself. I'm patient with just about everyone else but myself. And learning when to do that, I guess.
Yep. Do you have any songs about your relationship that sort of show us a little bit about your relationship with nature?
I'll play the one that is probably, I don't have my harmonica, but that's all right. This song is one that Otts loves. He always has me play. And it's maybe kind of in line with that. And it's kind of my blue collar and roots growing up in nature and stuff. It's an ode to that. And I think you can find pieces of what we're talking about here a little bit. It's kind of like a poetic attempt at being grateful for that upbringing and being around those settings. It's called Working Man's Mile. They tell me that this road reaches forever, and it stretches out beyond in Midwest style. They say red carpets for the stars. Hell, that might as well be Mars. Oh, I'm bound to walk the working man's mile. Oh, I'm bound to walk the working man's mile. Oh, I'm bound to walk the working man's mile. I'm slinging prayers today that this sun shines here to stay. And I'm bound to walk the working man's mile. They tell me that my guitar is outdated. She's hurting for a brand new set of strings. They say she's broken and she's battered. Well, that hasn't really mattered. She's bound to help the working man sing. Well, she's bound to help the working man sing. Well, she's bound to help the working man sing. She's slaving at high noon, hoping that she stays in tune. She's bound to help the working man sing. Summer sweat, liquid toil, soaking through that rocky soil. Calloused hands, throat is dry. Never time to question why. They tell me that this fire's good for soothing, and it's got some magic deep inside its coals. They say gather kin and friends, maybe even make amends. Oh, it's bound to heal the working man's soul. Oh, it's bound to heal the working man's soul. Oh, it's bound to heal the working man's soul. It's burning to the sky, captivating every eye, and it's bound to heal the working man's soul. I actually thought of a better song right in the middle of playing. I'm like, oh, that one's probably better for this question. It's all right.
It's good. Maybe we'll still get it because we got some more.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we'll see. So let's move over, kind of downriver, I guess, is the direction we're going, to your connection with Ott's Kilcher, and he sent us a message. When was that, today or yesterday? And said, make sure you ask Andrew about his epiphany at Heroes Healing Homestead. So we haven't even talked about Heroes Healing Homestead on this podcast yet, or even this episode. But yeah, you could tell any story you want, and we'll believe it.
Sure.
About what
no
it is
shit
out there.
There I was. Just kidding. Ott's, I'll probably get choked up talking about him. So I first met Ott's in Telluride, and it was a we were playing at the Sheridan Opera House, which is kind of like their cool venue there. And it was an Operation Encore thing. We were helping with a local nonprofit there that deals with helping disabled veterans and disabled people in general getting out in nature. Telluride Adaptive. They're wonderful.
All right.
Shout out to them. And so Ott's Guy Jacquier, who is on the board of Operation Encore, who's kind of the lifeblood of Operation Encore, keeps things going. He kind of got a hold, somehow they got a hold of Ott's, and Ott's daughter Jewel lives in Telluride, so it just kind of worked out. He came out and he sang a couple songs, and the first time he saw me, I had hair down to my butt, and he said, "Who the hell is this mountain man?" And I knew instantly that I loved him from that second on, and so we just kind of clicked from there after other events that maybe we were at. And the more we talked to each other, the more we realized we had a lot of very similar, we had a very similar upbringing in a lot of ways, and kind of difficult situations with hard fathers, you know, that, but growing up in nature, we both had Mormonism in our backgrounds. He had lived very close to where I was from when he went to BYU for school.
Wow.
And so there were just a lot of connections, and we really, really connected. So then we ended up later doing the Heroes Healing Homestead, which he had been working to set up. I was part of the inaugural group that went up to the Box Canyon in the Fox River Valley there. And it was a lovely experience. We go in with four-wheelers, you know, middle of nowhere, and we live in this canyon for you know, a week or whatever it was. And I've had some health issues from toxic exposure from the military, so some things were kind of hard. I couldn't drive the four-wheelers as much because I had basically a hernia in my side, so there were a bunch of things that I had to do, but it's very accommodating. And we're up there, and you know, a lot of those things I had done growing up in the summer anyways, you know, the survival things, so in the mountains in Utah. And so our group, a lot of people are getting experience out there. And then, well, one night I had a friend approach me, and I had made a joke that was not very appropriate. And I didn't really realize that I had made this joke. And one of my dearest friends, he said, "Hey, you might want to watch out. You know, that wasn't very good." And I was like, "Did I say that?" And then he was like, "Yeah, you did." And then I sat there and thought about it, and, you know, me, alone with you, beating myself up, going, huh. And then all of a sudden when I did that, it was like I had flash images of times I had made jokes or kind of made light of abuse. And I thought, what is wrong with me? And then it went back, and I realized that I had been sexually abused as a child, and I had completely forgotten about it. Completely. was nowhere on my radar. And I was 40 years old at this point going, oh my goodness, I'm remembering things. And my friend who had called me out on it, he saw me over on the cot and he was going, are you okay over there? And I went, can I talk to you? And we went outside and I instantly just started sobbing and bawling. And I said, I was abused, and I just, like, visceral reactions. I was shaking and threw up at one point. It was just, my body was letting this go. Something that I had held on to, for over 30 years or whatever, and I had just completely forgotten about it. And once I stopped shaking and all these things, it was like my body felt 10 years younger. I had released this gigantic burden that I had been carrying, and suddenly some ways that I had handled situations, including making light of, I realized that it was a way for me to try to push these things away and cope with, even though it was buried so deep. I realized the reactions that I had in my life to certain things suddenly made more sense. And so now I've been, ever since then, I'm grateful for that experience, but I've been trying to figure out ways to peel back the layers more now that I kind of know. But I don't think I would have come to that realization had it not been for that environment, perfect time with perfect people to allow myself to at least admit that I had, been abused when I was younger. And so I think that's been a very helpful thing. And again, nature, the right environment, the right recipe with the right people, it truly has very healing experience. It can be a very healing experience for people. Mm-hmm. So I recommend, Heroes Healing Homestead has been a lifesaver for me. Getting to meet Otts, it has changed my life. All of these things together. And I hope that others can be as lucky as I am to have those experiences. Whether it be Alaska or wherever else, I hope, whether it be vets or not. Mm-hmm. I truly believe with the right environment, it can absolutely be helpful. And there are environments that, Utah had a lot of the troubled teen industry stuff, and I don't think some of that was as helpful. I think it really actually hurt some people because it wasn't the right recipe, the right way to deal with it. But I truly believe that right place, right time, right people, absolutely, people will find healing in nature.
Do you think that there's a spiritual component in the sense of, like, having been to Healing Heroes Homestead is a homestead? It's also a organization that, like, promotes this type of work that Otts is really spearheading. But it's also a place. And having been there, I'm curious, as someone who's been there, just a different perspective, do you think that there's something special about that place? Is there a sort of spiritual energy? I know, for example, Salt Lake City, for some people, has a very spiritual
sure.
People so I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, because that's a huge revelation to have, right?
For me, I mean, no question. And I, growing up in a certain spiritual culture or tradition, Mormon, LDS, I was fully a believer in that until my mid-30s. And there was some deconstruction that went on there. And so my view of spirituality or God or whatever else has changed drastically. I will say there, though, I definitely connected and felt something that was bigger than me, that I don't know how to describe it or how to really interpret it other than, yeah, there's something there and it spoke to me. And I think it brought me back to the times I had spent with the native people and what I felt there that was so much deeper than I felt on Sundays in my white shirt and tie, in church or walking around as a missionary in Brazil or whatever. It was something much deeper that I always was chasing for the rest of my life. And I don't know how to describe it. And I think because I can't describe it, probably means that it was, something bigger than myself. I think, oh man, absolutely, there's something that just really woke up inside of me that made me realize, made me connect the dots and be able to at least process things or work on processing things in a different way that's been beneficial to me, for sure.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I think there's one way of telling the story of religion that, all those rules and are meant to keep us away from those direct connections with God, because then or creator or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Because then we depend on the church as our conduit, and
Absolutely.
And that institution needs us, and
they get your 10% or whatever else, right? And it's and I don't think those. I think some people, it may be a good match for them where they're at. I have no. Again, I'm not gonna. But for me, it actually was hindering my growth, and it was hindering my ability to heal. It wasn't truly, and because I wasn't getting what, they say a recipe. Oh, if you accept Jesus and listen to the words of these men, you will find true healing. And it was like, why am I stuck? What's wrong with me?
Yep.
And the truth is, it just wasn't the right recipe for me.
Yeah.
And I think you're right that it absolutely can hinder, can be a difficult thing. So I was grateful that all my life experiences, I think had I not joined the military, I would have not been in such a dark place, but yet kind of a beautiful place, I guess, beautifully dark, that I would have even got into a place that I had to ask those questions, look deeper, look outside, be brave enough to go, hey, this might not be what I think it is,
Is that what kind of started the journey of leaving the belief system?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It brought me to shook my very core, brought me to my knees, to where I was like, this, I had to ask the hard questions. And I even had I went to our 6 or 8 week program for the VA, through the VA. And it's inpatient for post-traumatic stress. And one of the things my therapist was like, she said, I think you're getting a little hung up on the belief system you were raised in, and I think that it might be actually hindering your progress a little bit. And I was like, nah, but then I thought about it more and more, and I was like, I think she's right. I think she's absolutely right. I need to let some of this go to rock bottom, start over, try again, and see what actually is going to help me, and just go wherever that leads me, instead of the preconceived notions of what I was told or what I thought was the way to fix these things. And that opened up a whole new world for me, for sure.
I don't know whether to ask if you've read this book or how many times you've read it, but Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse.
No, I don't think I've read it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it like Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha or whatever?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the story begins, he's in a palace, right? And he's, a Brahmin, so he's very wealthy and protected. And he sneaks out and he starts to see what the rest of the world's really like. Mm-hmm. And then he tries to escape, but he can't until all the guards fall asleep magically one night. Mm-hmm. And then he essentially lets go of that palace, like the belief system, the institution, all the things that were protecting him, because and the story goes that he saw a very sick old woman, and he didn't even know that sickness and aging and dying were a part of life because he was so protected.
Yeah.
And then he begins his journey of enlightenment through all these ups and downs, and but I think about that story in terms of the rock bottom and the leaving the safe palace of a belief system and getting a window. Your story really sort of archetypally represents that, getting a window into what life is.
Yeah.
That doesn't match with what's inside the palace walls.
Absolutely. And you know what's funny is I thought about this while I was talking. I was going to mention, but you talked about dying, and in Mormonism, it's like, okay, you die, but heaven, and you eventually, there is eternal progression, all these things, and I think that really was a hindrance, because I needed to accept that, well, I will die. This version of me is going to be gone at some point, and sooner than later, because at this point, I'm, with the health issues I have, I doubt I'm going to make it to a ripe old age of 100. I don't think so. And that's okay. And it's okay that maybe I'm on the apex, or I'm coming down. Maybe, I don't know. But to just accept that and know I am going to appreciate what I have right now. And I'm not going to keep pushing for this thing that I don't even know if it will happen or what is going to happen. I have no idea. It could be the end, could not be. It could be that my essence is put back into the earth, and I come out a beautiful tree. A part of me. I have no idea. Or it could be it. But I do know that, man, it is pretty cool that I am on this rock hurling through space, and I have these 3 boys, and this wife and all these things. It is, if you think about that, wow. Wow, that I even get to be a part of that. Even though it sucks sometimes too, it's hard. That's amazing. And it makes me appreciate that, right now, this moment is the one thing I can count on. That's the one thing. I don't, tomorrow might not happen. I don't know. Yesterday, gone. Right now, I have this moment right now. And that is actually really, really cool. And it seems so simple, but that's really hard, actually, to get a grasp on that and a grip on that, and to realize that, that's what we got, and that's what we know for sure. And man, I'm real lucky to have it, so I might as well try to deal with it and do with it the best that I can. Whatever that is. And sometimes, man, most times I think I probably fail grasping that moment, but and I've even learned, maybe it's not pass or fail, it's just, how did I react there? What can I do better next time? Or what went well? And I look back on some of the times in the military that training or combat, whatever, that I felt like I am dying here. This is so hard. I don't know if I can take one more step. But I did. And now I look back on some of those times as some of the fondest memories I have. That, oh my goodness, I pushed past that. Sniper school, we started out with, I don't know, I can't remember, it was like 40 people or something. We ended up with 16 at the very end. It's a pretty high attrition rate. And some of the other things that I did, pretty high attrition rate. But it's like to be standing at the end of that and through that and go, yeah, did it. You know what I mean? And that's pretty cool. But I think accepting dying and accepting, it's part of the thing. That's part of the process. And be happy for the process.
Yeah. And I think what what we give during that short time that we're here to other people is what we know is going to live on in some way, right?
Yeah.
Like your songs. I think
Yeah.
we go back to something we were talking about earlier. That when people don't step into they don't come fully into their, purpose, or they don't open their hearts. They stay with a closed heart, and they end up not giving what it is they're here to give.
Yeah.
Is like dying over and over again, right? Versus
Totally.
you being able to give something that, even though your kids might sing your song differently, or
Yeah.
someone else is going to hear it differently, it's something that will live on and transform, and
Isn't that
takes us
beautiful?
back to nature, right? It's like
Yeah.
the tree dies, the redwood falls over, but it becomes a whole bunch of moss and 5 other redwood trees.
It's just so cool to think about that, and amazing, and and think about even Otts, like, who is a great songwriter in his own right. He has a way with words. There's a baskets, whatever it's amazing. But to think even how much he has impacted my life,
Exactly.
and how that he's also impacted my children through me and through himself. My kids call him Opa Otts. That's and they love him, and he comes to visit us. He's gonna come this winter again for a while, and we love having him. But to think of that, not even music, just the way he is, that will carry on in some way forever, because it'll affect my kids' kids, and in perpetuity until, and then when I die, it's, again, that might affect the moss that I turn into, or whatever else. It's just really, and that's why I think, you talked about a spiritual component. Yeah, there's a lot of death and birth in that little box canyon, to think of the millions of years that things have been born and died and evolved, and oh man, that's just really cool to think about. It's a mind-blowing thing for me, for a country bumpkin like me. It's crazy to think about.
I wonder if you want to wrap up with a song, knowing that we're gonna be spending some time around a campfire, or at least a kiva fire.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
In a few, not too long in this.
Yeah, we're getting close, aren't we? It's awesome. Yeah, I can. And in fact, I will play the other one I thought of.
Yeah.
Because that last song actually talked about a campfire at the very end. This one kind of plays into it. It used to be that our ancestors, what they worried about was getting food, finding shelter. That was what they spent their days doing. We have a very different thing now, to where it's a whole lot of things. Oh, part of my survival is answering this email, is doing, is getting to this, and that's like part of this thing that we have created. So there's a lot of the hustle and bustle that I think there's good things with that, but there's also, I think we've become detached from what's around us, and like the sky. We often forget that we are a part of this evolutionary chain that has grown and adapted in this beautiful world that we are so lucky to be in. So this song is kind of about trying to remember that a little bit.
Awesome.
And it's in our place in it, and it's called Find Yourself a Freeway. And these city lights are dancing, drowning out the stars. Melody of crickets out of tune with clubs and bars. And there's trashy and filthy gutters lining golden streets. Sadness rules the rat race, fueled by methamphetamines. Wearing constant frowns, chasing heavy crowns. Maybe find yourself a freeway, Find yourself again. Find yourself a diner, have a coffee, make a friend. Find yourself a mountaintop, throw caution to the wind. Find yourself a freeway. Find yourself again. And you fear what you're becoming. You fear what you became. You fear you sold what matters most for flashy clothes and well-known name. And you feel the sun upon you, that California dry. Heart and soul are thirsting for the rains from endless Kansas skies. Wearing constant frowns, chasing heavy crowns. Going, find yourself a freeway, find yourself again. Find yourself a diner, have a coffee, make a friend. Find yourself a mountaintop, throw caution to the wind. Find yourself a freeway. Make the time to take the time to follow wild and careless whims. Let the silent child inside you laugh aloud again. Sweet pedal steel solo here on the record. Find yourself a freeway, find yourself again. Find yourself a diner, have a coffee, make a friend. Find yourself a mountaintop, throw caution to the wind. Find yourself a freeway, find yourself again.
Man, I love all those songs, and that one, it felt like we worked our way up to that one. That it just it really hits home with everything that we've been talking about. It's been good to talk to you and get to know you a little bit better. I'm sure, or a lot better. I mean, we covered some big territory there.
I have very strong feelings on fries and Frosties. Potatoes and ice cream do not go together, so I will die on that hill.
So maybe you got a good point there. It's good when our strong opinions don't collide with each other, and we can.
There you go.
We agree on the important stuff.
That's right. Yeah, my siblings would just sit there with Frosties and their fries, and I'd just give them the look like, you know. Just joking.
So we'll see. What is it? November 2nd, Miriam? Yeah. In Ojai, California.
You're in for a treat with Wintergrain. The Wintergrain gals, they're lovely, dear friends, and Stephen Covell, who's probably my best friend on this planet. He's the one that said, "Hey, watch your mouth" in Alaska. He's the friend
wow!
We're just, he's like a brother to me. We're my best bud. So you're gonna love him. He's great.
And people might have fond feelings of Otts too when they get to meet him too, but
I think
we'll find out.
He's a good guy. So
all right.
thanks, y'all.
Thank you.